In the opener today, we've got all 6 types of problems, all 6 types of conversions that we talked about last week between fractions and decimals and percents. So we'll just go through them one at a time, talk about how we do each one, make sure that we're writing down all of our work, and we'll go from there. So, first one, we want to change 9 over 20, the fraction 9/20ths, to a decimal. How do we change a fraction to a decimal? What are we going to do? All right, so we're going to take, in our fraction, we take the numerator divided by the denominator. In this case, it's going to be 9 divided by 20. So, since I'm going to be using my calculator to do this, I want to write down on paper what I'm putting into my calculator. So I'm going to put an equal sign here. So 9 over 20 is equal to 9 divided by 20. And when we type that into our calculator, what do we get, Alejandro?
We're going to get 0.45.
We get 0.45. Do we need this 0 here in front of the decimal?
No.
Yes. So it actually doesn't change the value of anything. So it's not necessary as far as the value of this decimal, but we do need it there because we always want to have something in the ones place. All right, the first number to the left of the decimal, we always want to have something there. If there is nothing there, we're going to keep that 0 in there. So we get 0.45. Next one, we want to change 0.89 to a percent. How do we change a decimal into a percent, Emily?
We take 0.89 and multiply it by 100.
Perfect. So we're going to take the decimal 0.89 and we're going to multiply it by 100. Actually, multiplying by 100%. And there's 2 ways we can do this. If we're going to do this in the calculator, we should write this down so that we know what we're putting into the calculator, so we know what you're doing. Or instead of putting it in the calculator, what's another way of multiplying by 100? Should have this in your notes. We can multiply by 100 by taking the decimal point from here and moving it to the right 2 places. That's the same thing as typing into your calculator 0.89 times 100. All right, so if you're going to do this, you can show us that, and then you don't need to write this down. All right, either way works. It's multiplying by 100. Either way, what do we get? 89%. Since our answer is a percent, we need to make sure that we remember that percent symbol. All right, next one, 0.35. We want to convert that to a fraction. What's the first thing we're going to do? We need to start by finding the place value of the last digit. This 5 here is the last digit. What is the place value of that 5, Dartavian? That is the hundredths place. So since that's in the hundredths place, we write the fraction with 100 where, Dartavian? In the bottom. Okay, good. So hundredths means that we're going to be dividing by 100, or we're going to have 100 in the denominator. What's going to go on top? Yeah, so we just take the decimal for the top number. We take the decimal here and take the decimal off and take the 0 off because it's not needed anymore, and we get 35. So we get 35 over 100. Are we done? No. What else can we do here? Yeah, we always want to simplify in the end. Thanks. So we're going to reduce here by, what can we reduce by 2?
No.
Can we reduce by 5?
Yes.
Yes, so we'll reduce by 5. Remember, those are the only 2 things that you really ever need to check. 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. And we get 7 over 20. That cannot reduce. 7 is not divisible by 2. 7 is not divisible by 5, so I know we're done. All right, next one, we have 5/8. So we have a fraction. We want to change that to a percent. What's the first thing we're going to do? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do 5 divided by 8. And doing that, 5 divided by 8, what's that going to do for us, Jack? It's going to turn the decimal, or I'm sorry, it's going to turn the fraction not into a percent, but into a decimal. All right, so we're going to start by changing it into a decimal. But then what are we going to do after we change it into a decimal, Jack?
You want to multiply it by 100%.
Exactly. So we're going to do 5 divided by 8, but then we're also going to multiply by 100% to change it into a percent. And when we do all of that, we type in 5 divided by 8 and then times 100. What do we get, Jack?
62.5.
62.5, and we need to make sure we remember that percent symbol, right? Is that decimal okay in a percent? Yeah, it's okay to have a decimal in a percent, but this is a percent now, so it means that 62 out of 100. So if this 5/8 here means that we got 5 questions right on a quiz that had 8 questions, that means that if it had 100 questions, we would have had 62 and a half questions right, which a half a question right doesn't really make sense unless we're doing partial credit, but that's kind of the idea. All right, how about 43% and changing it into a decimal? How do we change a percent into a decimal? To change a percent into a decimal, think about what percent means. What does percent mean? Out of 100, right? So 43 out of 100 is the same thing as 43 divided by 100. So we're going to do this by dividing by 100. So one way to do it is just write down 43 divided by 100, and then we type that into our calculator, we get our answer. Or, as Travion said, we could just move the decimal 2 places to the left. Remember, when we change a decimal into a percent, we move the decimal 2 places to the right when we multiply by 100. So we're going to move it 2 places to the left to divide by 100. Now, I don't see a decimal there. So Travion, where is the decimal so that we can move it to the left? What's that? Yeah, so the decimal is right here. And if we want to move that 2 places to the left, then where's it going to end up? All right, so when we do that, whether we're using the calculator or just by moving the decimal point, we get 0.43. Now there's a little problem with that answer. What do I need to do here? What am I missing?
Zero.
I need a 0 in front. We always want a number in the ones place, so I'm going to put a 0 up there. All right, on the last one, we want to change 44% to a fraction. Just like the previous problem, we thought of 43% as 43 out of 100, which means 43 divided by 100. This 44% means 44 out of 100 also, right? So how do I write that as a fraction? How can we write 44 out of 100 as a fraction? 2? 44 over 100, exactly. So 44 out of 100, 44% can be written 44 over 100. Anytime we have a fraction, we need to make sure we do what? What do we need to do with this? We need to reduce it. So we're going to reduce by 2, top and bottom. And when we do that, 44 divided by 2 is 22, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. Are we done? No, we can do that again, right? We can reduce by 2 again. 22 divided by 2 is 11, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. All right, they're both odd, so can I reduce that again? No. Can't reduce by 2, can't reduce by 5. That's all we need to check. So we're done.